Hello, I'm Olivia Grayson.
And I'm Lindsay Morales. Welcome to Stratazine, your source of authentic, curated content for digital and social media professionals.
On today's show, we'll take a look at the impact of digital media on PR and journalism collaborations.
And in our tips and tools segment, we'll talk about how to get to news in a more positive way.
First, to our question of the day. Where do most young adults consume their news? I had the chance to ask students around BYU, Idaho, where they consume their news and if they trust it. Hi everyone, I'm Olivia Grayson and I'm here with Stratazine, and I'm asking BYU, Idaho students where they consume their news and if they trust it. So, hi, what's your name?
I'm Lainey.
Nice to meet you. So, where do you consume most of your news?
Embarrassingly, like TikTok or Instagram.
Yeah, dude, me too.
Yeah.
Me too. Yeah. So, do you trust the news that you get off of Instagram?
No.
Not a bit.
No.
Where do you get news that you trust then?
I probably take like the information on Instagram and then like I Google it.
Yeah.
To, like make sure there's multiple sources.
All right. And then what's your name?
My name is Jessica.
Jessica. Okay. So where do you consume your news?
Honestly, I don't consume that much news. I'm gonna have to say like the same with the Instagram.
Yeah. Social media.
And then past that, I do have like the church news app.
Oh.
But that's like more church related news.
Right.
So
Who am I here with? What's your name?
My name's Camille.
Camille, nice to meet you. So where do you consume your news?
The Fox website.
Okay.
It usually pops up for me.
Any celebrity type news or anything? Is that mostly off of Fox as well?
I don't really follow that kind of stuff, so I don't really have any answer for that.
I don't care. Yeah. So do you trust the news that you get wherever you get them?
Usually, if it's from Fox or from like CNN, yeah.
Look at me.
Michael Austin Hardy Jr.
All right, nice to meet you. So
Thank
how
you.
do you consume news? Where do you get your news?
How do I consume my news? Social media. A lot of
Yes.
social media. If I need to look something up, I just look it up and I just look at different articles, or I'll use ChatGPT a lot
Nice.
because now it's like it used to be where I couldn't look up news, but now I can look up news. So like it can just tell me everything that I know.
Right.
It's like
So do you trust what comes in most of
from
the news?
ChatGPT.
Or ChatGPT or social media, whatever.
I actually trust ChatGPT a lot just because it can cross-reference everything.
Right.
So then it tells me it's an opinion, and then I just judge the
Because
opinion.
it lists its sources, right? So you can go
100%.
in and check it out. Nice. Okay, and then what's your name?
Alexandra.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet
so
you.
how do you consume news?
I will say almost kind of the same. Social media, especially. I do go and look at the news once in a while on my
Right.
phone.
So do you trust that news that comes in from social media?
Sometimes it depends. Like he said, it was just like what sources it's coming from.
Right.
Double checking the sources probably. But
Right.
Well, it sounds like it's pretty normal nowadays for people to get their news from social media, but it is important to fact check.
I agree. Now let's hear from Jamie with our topic segment as she gives us a brief explanation on the impact of digital media on PR and journalism collaborations.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jamie Russ, and welcome to today's topic segment in today's podcast. We're just going to get right in and start. And today we are discussing the impact of digital media on PR and journalism. And before we really get started, we need to discuss what even is digital media, what is PR, and what is journalism. To start off, what is digital media? Digital media is content like websites, social media, videos, and online news accessed through electronic devices like our phones and computers. For example, like social media like Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, podcasts, or online news like CNN. And what is PR? PR, public relations, is the practice of managing a person or organization's image and reputation through communication with public and media. For example, press releases, social media posts, media interviews, or influencer partnerships. And what is journalism? Journalism is the practice of reporting news and information to the public through various media, focusing on accuracy and fairness. For example, news articles, TV news, broadcasts, or radio reports. So now that we know what those three things are, what is the impact of digital media on PR and journalism collaboration? Digital media has made it easier for PR and journalism to work together by speeding up communication and expanding their reach. Social media and online platforms allow for real-time sharing, helping PR teams manage reputations and journalists gather stories quickly. It's also increased transparency and created new opportunities for engaging multimedia content. And thank you guys so much for watching today.
Since we're a little more educated on this topic, let's hear from a professional.
Recently, I met with Brother Williams, a communications and journalism professor at BYU Idaho, to get his insights.
Welcome. Thank you for joining me today. I'm here with Brother Williams, who is communications and journalism professor here at BYU Idaho. And we're going to talk a little bit about digital media and its impact on PR and journalism collaboration. So, Brother Williams, can you tell me just a little bit about your background in journalism?
Sure. Of course, I've been a college professor most of my professional life, and I have a PhD from the University of Maryland and a master's, a Kiplinger Fellow over at the Ohio State University, but I worked professionally for several years, a little bit in marketing. I was at a herbal company called Enrich, but then I did the Deseret News and Utah County Journal, a couple internships in Washington, things like that. So, yeah.
Awesome. Now, how has the rise of digital platforms such as blogs and online publications reshaped the traditional relationship between PR teams and journalists? Do they work together differently? Is it pretty similar?
Yeah. No, I think one of the things that's happening is there are a lot of things that are still the same, that a PR person is trying to help a professional journalist accomplish his or her job, trying to provide good content in a timely manner. But what it allows is the PR professional to, if you will, go over the head of the journalist. So it used to be, right, you'd have a press release, and how are you going to reach the audience? You've got to go through the gatekeeper of the journalism. Right. So, it was press releases. You still do press releases, but now you have blogs and websites, your own social media feeds. It's maybe a lot more work than it used to be, but you can do it. What you find too is that a good PR professional, especially one in government or nonprofit, they'll often, their interest is to get news and information out as well as the journalist. So yeah, how do they work together? In some ways, it's the same as it's always been. In other ways, it allows the PR professional to do stuff that they don't have to rely on journalism in the same way they used to. One thing that's really interesting, I'm not an expert on this, but if you look at like how things are the same and how they're different, look at Google News. So maybe I'm wrong about this but my memory of Google News is that you type in a topic and click on the news tab. It was primarily going to give you journalism sources.
Right.
Now it still gives you journalism sources, but it also gives you PR sources.
Yeah,
it makes that distinction between news and journalism. Journalism, of course, is that independent, and PR is just news. This is what we create about ourselves. I'm not sure if that's a good or a bad thing. I think it's somewhat a bad thing because it makes our readers not know the difference between good journalism and news. They may not even know that this is produced by a corporation about itself, or by the government about itself. Doesn't mean it's necessarily inaccurate. Doesn't mean it doesn't sometimes and often have integrity, but there's something nice about a third party writing about things.
No, that's true. A little bit more unbiased.
Hopefully. Hopefully.
Are there any ethical concerns about how PR teams and journalists collaborate in the digital space, especially with influencers involved?
No. Well, now, what do you mean by influencers? That a PR person reaches out to an influencer, hoping that the influencer will write about their story?
Yeah, that, or maybe a celebrity who has had a bigger impact. I mean, like Taylor Swift, who played a big role during the election. She was able to influence her fans to lean a certain way just because they were her fans.
There are like 2 or 3 different questions, I think, embedded in that. One of those is, what do we think about the new kind of journalism? So we've got like a new kinds of media. So President Trump, for example, is going on Joe Rogan, and he's going on all these podcasters who have maybe high integrity. I'm not making a judgment of that, but they're not following traditional journalism structures. Right. And it was really useful for him, it appears. And they have an audience and it's credible. But traditional journalism is about information gathering sometimes. And most of the time, I think, and strong opinions and that sort of thing. And so when a PR person is reaching out to Joe Rogan, if Joe Rogan will listen to them, in a way, it's no different than when they reach out to a journalist. that the PR professional has a responsibility to who they represent.
Mhm.
And however they can get that message out, the PR professional has that obligation to do it. They have to be careful, obviously, because hopefully, some journalistic outlets maybe have more credibility than others.
Right.
And so if you're reaching out to an influencer who's then going to do some things that aren't so ethical,
Mhm.
then that's going to damage your brand, right?
Yeah.
Was it a PR? It was a marketing decision when like Budweiser reached out to an influencer,
Oh. Mhm.
and that influencer did some things and they didn't understand their audience.
Yeah.
And pretty soon the brand's really damaged. Now that's more marketing than PR, but PR has the same challenges.
Right.
They do.
You have to, crisis management and kind of
Yeah.
fix the image. And yes, marketing goes hand in hand with it. But
Yeah. And you shouldn't create crises that you
Right.
don't have to.
Yeah, exactly.
And of course PR is dealing with crisis management and creating it. So when you deal with influencers, and maybe to some degree, the same thing could be true of journalism anymore. If some of your audience thinks an outlet is more conservative, more liberal, and your audience is not as
Yeah.
interested in that, right? Then you have to be careful about that. I think that's relatively rare, but you still have to be careful about it.
Right. It's just part of, you don't want to, I don't know. People still get offended no matter what you do, but.
Exactly. I come at journalism, and you know how much I appreciate and admire journalism and journalists. The ideal of integrity, the ideal of reading things. But one other thing of, writing truthfully, one of the things I admire most about public relations is in its, statement of principles, the PRSA statement of principles. And one of them is professionalism.
Yeah.
That if you're in PR, you try to look the part, you're representing people.
Mhm.
So when you're talking about ethical things, boy, it has to be governed by that professionalism.
Yeah.
You're making relationships. You do what you say you do. We had, I just think of our PR professionals now that are teaching in our department, and Sister Walton, who was here, they are just professionals.
Yeah.
They work really hard to get things right, to keep things organized. And that's PR.
Maintaining that professionalism.
Yeah.
Just one more question. And on this note,
Sure.
do you think those lines of professionalism are getting blurred with?
So I think one of the biggest challenges that all of us have is media generally are what we would think of silos and boundaries. They're crossing.
Yeah.
So, you go, is the PR agent, so if I'm working for government,
Right.
that PR person might also be responsible for crafting advertising messages.
Mhm.
They might be responsible for crafting social media marketing messages instead of the traditional PR, which is the press release, the relationship development,
Mhm.
the public speaking development, the kinds of things that PR has always done.
Yeah.
Message crafting, taking the time. Now you kind of do all those things.
Mhm.
So I think that's a great thing about our majors is we try to cover all these grounds. And like I was saying about Google, you've got now it's like, well, a lot of people are creating news.
Mhm.
Is that really journalism? And of course, I don't think it is, but readers
Right. It's
don't
still
always see the difference.
informing the readers.
Yeah,
and
it is.
They think of all of it as news, but
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And so if you're in public relations, you're going to be creating news for an audience, and you're not even going to be dealing with journalists. If you're in PR, you're going to be dealing with journalists. You're going to be creating marketing things.
Yeah.
You're going to be answering questions of media. And so, are you a content marketer? And so it's a little bit of everything
Mhm.
and what those silos are. I mean, the silos are still there, but those boundaries are getting crossed, and that's just the way it is.
Right.
Social media, I think, has done that to us.
Mhm.
Those social media algorithms where it just kind of shows us what we want, but it doesn't differentiate between the source of the content.
Yeah. Perfect. Well, thank you so much for your time.
No, that's great.
Me
It's nice
today.
to be with you.
It was great to hear from Brother Williams. He's always so knowledgeable about everything, but specifically journalism.
Yeah. Now, our tip and tool for this week is learning how to positively consume news.
Hi guys, welcome to the tip of the episode. I'm Skylar Bailey Manapat, and today I'm going to give you some positive ways to consume the news. Now don't get me wrong, the news is great. However, it can be a huge drain on us if we let it and that's why I'm here to help. Tip number 1. Set a time limit. The timer should be at a reasonable limit that allows you to check how much news you consume. It allows you to be able to catch up without going crazy. I would recommend about 15 to 25 minutes a day. Tip number 2. Turn off all news-related notifications. The time you set for when you consume the news should only be during a specific time. Keeping the time you make to consume the news should only be during that time, and none other time of the day. Tip number 3. Create a positive news ritual. Pair your news consumption with positive activities, like listening to a podcast or calming music, getting a nice calming drink, or finding a cuddle buddy to be able to enjoy the news with. Tip number 4. Focus on self-care after consuming news. Negative news can affect your mental health if you don't take care of yourself. After reading or watching the news, take a few moments for yourself. Whether it's stretching, meditating, journaling, or listening to calming music, make sure you have a self-care routine to reset and relax. And finally, avoid all-night news binging. Late-night news consumption can disrupt your sleep and increase stress for the next day. This tip is not only to help you with positive scrolling, but helps you with your sleep schedule too. Create a news curfew after a specific time to stop viewing news for the rest of the day. That way, you are able to catch yourself up on all the news you need and still be able to get plenty of sleep. There you have it. A few tips to be able to better enjoy your time consuming the news and ensuring self-care. I'm Skylar Bailey Manapat with Stratazine, and I'll see you later.
Back to the question of the day. What is the most trusted news outlet?
Most young adults consume their news from Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. TikTok is also on the rise. Men within this young adult age group tend to use YouTube, and women within this young adult age group tend to use Instagram or Facebook to find their news.
That's all for this episode of Stratazine. Coming up in the next episode, the topic will be making high-quality content with the equipment you already have.
Thanks for hanging out with us today as we learned about the impacts of digital media on PR and journalism collaboration.
You can find links and attributions to everything from today's podcast in the credits and the show notes. Have a great day.